I was born in London, but I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you, Roxy. Lagos was a place where almost everything seemed broken. I grew up under a military dictatorship, and I would never have believed that 40 years later, I would be standing here as the leader of the world's most successful political party in the history of Western democracy.
I stand by what I said on Nigeria. I have nothing in common with the people from the north of the country. The Boko Haram, where the Islamism is, those were our ethnic enemies, and yet you end up being lumped in with those people. Kemi Badenoch, replies Shetima. This is plain. Anyway, the leader of UK Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, says she stands by her remarks about Nigeria, despite criticism from Vice President Kashim Shettima, who accused her of denigrating the country. Kemi Badenoch, who was born in the UK but largely raised in Nigeria, has frequently described her upbringing as being overshadowed by fear and insecurity in a country plagued by corruption. Let's recall that Kemi had earlier criticized the country, saying, and I quote, "I grew up in Nigeria and I saw firsthand what happens when politicians are in it for themselves, when they use public money as their private piggy banks, when they pollute the whole political atmosphere with their failure to serve others. I saw what socialism is for millions. I saw poverty and broken dreams. I came to Britain to make my way in a country where hard work and honest endeavor can take you anywhere." Unquote. So, these were what Kemi said that triggered the Nigerian government to the extent that the presidency, through Kashim Shettima, had to reply her. Instead of them to have a critical look at the issues that Kemi raised and find a genuine way to navigate our country out of the deplorable situation they pushed us into, they went on attacking her in order to intimidate and humiliate her. They think delivering good governance is by attacking anybody who criticizes them. They haven't seen anything. So on Monday, Kashim Shettima responded to Kemi, accusing her of denigrating Nigeria. He compared her to former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, a brilliant young man from India, who has never spoken negatively about his ancestral country, and urged Kemi Badenoch to change her first name if she no longer wished to identify with homeland. So when Kemi was asked about Shettima's comment, Kemi's spokesperson replied and said, she stands by her statement and not interested in doing PR for Nigeria. She's the leader of the opposition and she's very proud of her leadership of the opposition in this country. She tells it like it is. She's not going to couch her words and she stands by what she says. Kemi Badenoch has consistently maintained that Nigeria is a place where fear was everywhere. She vividly described the city as lawless, recalling hearing her neighbors scream as they are being burgled and beaten and wondering if your home will be next.
I was born here, but I grew up in a place where fear was everywhere. You cannot understand it unless you've lived it. Triple checking that all the doors and windows are locked, waking up in the night at every sound, listening as you hear your neighbors scream as they are being burgled and beaten, and wondering if your home will be next.
Kemi Badenoch spoke the truth about Nigeria. What she said about insecurity is even worse now than it was when she experienced it. There is no water provided by the government at all levels, and if you provide your own borehole, the state government will still tax you. I think we should stop referring to Nigeria as a country. It's a jungle where everything happens. No government, no good roads, no good government schools, no electricity, no security, no jobs, no justice from the courts, no justice from police, no justice anywhere.
You use them to try and destroy us.
Do you trust the British police?
I do. But, remember my experience with the police in Nigeria was very negative. And coming to the UK, my first experience with the police was very positive. The police in Nigeria would rob us. So when people say, I had this bad experience with the police because I'm black and they're white, I was like, well, I remember the police stole my brother's shoes and his watch.
His shoes?
Yeah, they took his shoes and his watch. It's a very poor country. So, people do all sorts of things, and giving people a gun is just a license to intimidate. But
In fact, nothing works in Nigeria. We have job seekers as leaders who only think of what they will loot and launder from the country. Again, how can you force somebody to make good comments about you, even when you don't deserve that good comment? Kemi said nothing but the truth about the state of things in Nigeria. If things were really working well and there is rule of law in Nigeria, Kemi and many Nigerians in diaspora wouldn't have left in the first place. Badenoch is, however, ready to fight. Her Nigeria heritage often comes up in conversation about her straight-talking style, but she says this misses the point. She said, and I quote, "I find it interesting that everybody defines me as being Nigeria. I identify less with the country than with the specific ethnicity, Yoruba." So she has actually made it clear to the government that she prefers being addressed as a Yoruba lady than a Nigerian. That's very interesting. So she continues, "I have nothing in common with the people from the north of the country. The Boko Haram where the Islamism is, those were our ethnic enemies, and yet you end up being lumped in with those people." Unquote. I believe this is a direct hit on Shetima, who was the governor of Borno State when Boko Haram rose to prominence there. Most people have already forgotten that his personal decision to insist that the Chibok Secondary School in particular must sit their WAEC exams in their school premises, against the direct advice of the then Minister of State for Education, that resulted in the now infamous Chibok girls' abduction. So you see why she's very unapologetic about her statement, and anybody in her shoes would do the same. So guys, let's have your thoughts in the comment section below over these backlashes Kemi and the Nigerian government are having. Hello, you're watching Daily Events News, your favorite platform for amazing events happening across the country. If you're a returning subscriber and viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, you're highly welcome, and please kindly give us a thumb up, subscribe, comment and share our videos for more people to be aware of what is happening in our dear country. Also follow us across social media at Daily Events News for more interesting updates. See you all in our next video, and thanks for watching.
Who founded Facebook? The co-founder of Facebook was Eduardo Luis Sabirin, born in Sao Paulo, Brazil, of Jewish Brazilian ancestry. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, was a migrant from South Africa. He owns SpaceX and now X, formerly Twitter. I can name names. Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, is worth over $30 billion. He's of Russian background. Rupert Murdoch, the chief executive of News Corp, is of Australian descent. Madeleine Albright, who became the United States Secretary of State, was of Czech origin. Steve Chen, the co-founder of YouTube, is originally from Taiwan. Immigrants build nations and immigrants build civilizations. One of the men in the front seat here has a thriving business in Namibia. He lived in Australia for over a decade, adding value to the Australian economy. Hence, there is a need for us to respect and cherish immigrants. Migrants are the source of life in all societies. Rishi Sunak, the former British Prime Minister, is originally from India. A very brilliant young man. He never denigrated his nation of ancestry, nor poured venoms on India. Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the British Labour or Conservative Party. We are proud of her, in spite of her efforts at denigrating her nation of origin. She is entitled to her own opinions. She has even every right to remove the Kemi from her name. But that does not underscore the fact that the greatest black nation on earth is the nation called Nigeria. 1 out of every 3-4 black men is a Nigerian. And by 2050, Nigeria will surpass the United States, will be the 3rd most populous nation on earth. 1 out of every 3 black men will be a Nigerian.